of frustration.
Silly mistakes again.
Full of despair.
I don't even know if I'll have a club tomorrow.
From years of hurt, disappointment, and relegation.
It could be League 2 next season.
Bolton are down, Norwich are down.
Two British football fans have had enough. Canary bird Elliot Holman and wanderer Henry Hewitt are in search of glory.
Get in!
Pride.
It's been a joy to watch.
Passion.
Nanny!
In search of silverware.
MLS Cup champions, baby!
And they found
ATL.
Orlando!
Major League Soccer.
Here we go then, the final MLS UK show of 2020. I'm Elliot Holman.
And I'm Henry Hewitt.
I say the final MLS UK show. I've never been so glad for a year to be over. But I will miss your pretty face, Henry.
Oh, and yeah, I'll miss you too, in a way.
This is the MLS UK show.
The MLS UK show with Lucid FC, a distinctively modern, casual fashion label. Take a look at lucidfc.us or lucidfc.co.uk and see why celebrities love the look. This season's current line is called What's Your Effing Club? Which is your F? Football, fashion, or film? If it's football, you're in the right place. Film, the MLS UK show podcast is now available to watch on YouTube. But fashion, it's always lucidfc.us or lucidfc.co.uk.
I kind of don't know where this year's gone. I know, obviously, it's been a terrible year for so many reasons, but also, MLS just seemed to have gone in a flash.
It has, yeah. And it was not a conventional season, we must say, but we've got to the end of it. Columbus Crew were the winners. We'll talk about that a little later on. But it's Christmas as well, so Merry Christmas, Elliot.
Merry Christmas.
I tell you what, for our listeners in North America, what's a normal Christmas like in the Holman household?
Normal Christmas, on a normal year where we've not got all these stupid restrictions in place, I'd be at my mum's. Mm-hmm. She'd be cooking a turkey, all the trimmings. I am a little bit unique in that I like to drag opening my presents out for as long as possible,
right, okay.
Whereas I know everyone else just like tears them all open. And then you watch the Queen's speech at 3 after your dinner, and then fall asleep in the chair because you've eaten too much. Standard. Then go to the football on Boxing Day.
Well, this for me, this year, unfortunately, is not a usual Christmas for me, because my usual Christmas is I spend Christmas Day with my mum, and then on Boxing Day I'll spend it with my dad. And that's what he says. He's like, oh, that's our Christmas Day because there's football in the UK on Boxing Day. Unfortunately, because of restrictions, he's gone to Wales to spend it with his partner and he can't get back. So, I'm not seeing my dad this year, but I'm seeing my mum. But I'm seeing Poppy's family, who does the kit reviews. They'll be back next year. And they live on a...
I still have them, by the way.
It's like gangster on a budget, isn't it? It's like...
Oh, Josef Martinez, I've missed him. I've got him to look forward to next year.
Oh, don't.
So this year we're spending it with Poppy's family, who live on a farm. So the food, I'm expecting big things from the food. I think it'd be really good. So there's silver linings, but yeah, not conventional. So Merry Christmas to everyone. And for the next hour or so, I hope you enjoy our end of season review / kind of look forward to next year / guide to Columbus we're doing today because they won MLS Cup. And this week, we will definitely remember to do a Kreis is Right. A few of you noticed last time, it was a slightly shortened episode. We wanted to get it out before MLS Cup. And when I came to edit it, I was like, this is a lot shorter than what I thought it would be. And it turns out we just forgot to do the Kreis is Right. So that will definitely happen today.
Okay, I've got it. It's rare. It's on a tab. It's ready to go. Let's not forget. One thing I won't forget is to start with the game of the changing name. And this is quite a difficult one today, I think.
Oh, don't say that. Not our last one of a series.
I recently acquired a list thanks to listener Nathan, who wrote down everyone that we've ever done on the game with a changing name. And as Henry knows, yesterday I was working on some new graphics for the podcast, and I decided that I wanted to put every name of every player that we've ever done on the game with a changing name sort of embedded in. Do you know sometimes they release football shirts with like the fans' names in the back? So I've done that. So it's kind of there forever now. And I realised that there was a couple of glaring ones I'd missed, but they might be really, really easy.
Right, okay.
So I found a player that we've definitely not done, but does play for your team. So
Atlanta
you might
or
get
Bolton?
Atlanta.
Right, okay.
They started their career at Watford, and they made 2 appearances for Watford. 2 whole appearances.
Huge player for them.
Was a bit of a youth prospect though. There was a lot of buzz about him. And he was born in Watford as well, so local club. He then made just a little move to Atlanta United in MLS in 2019, and he played 18 times in 2019.
Wow.
And has since moved to Luton in the Championship.
Okay.
Do you think you know who it is?
I know who it is.
Okay, I'm just checking. But we haven't done them before, have we?
I don't think we have, no.
Their name didn't crop up when I was going through them yesterday. So there we go. Started their career at Watford, went to Atlanta, and now in the Championship at Luton Town. But who is it?
Let us know if you think you know at MLS UK Show on Twitter, Instagram. You can email us, hello@mls.show. Tell us where you're up to in the podcast. Send a screenshot when you realise who it is. Don't go to the end. We say this. What are we? What episode are we up to now?
Great question.
20 in the series. I think it's like 80 odd overall, and we've pretty much said it every time. Don't go to the end. We know if you do, and
we'll
cheat.
find out.
But let us know, and we will reveal the answer at the end of the episode.
Right. Shall we talk about it?
Elliot Holman, Henry Hewitt, MLS UK Show.
So our 2020 MLS champions are the Columbus Crew. On episode 20 of season 3, you said that Seattle would win, maybe quite comfortably. I said Columbus might win, stretch it, scrape at a draw, and then win on penalties. As it turned out, Columbus won 3-0. Yet again proving we don't have a clue.
Not a clue. It's the toughest league in the world to predict. Even when you've got a choice of 2, you probably get it wrong. I think, first of all, I know it's kind of the home advantage, but Seattle have got to be disappointed with that, because I think, not taking away from the game, I think if you just look in general, a really simplified view of things, Seattle are a team that have been there and they've done it and they've won it recently with a pretty similar roster, very similar roster in fact, and you kind of expected them to just go and do the business. I don't think it was strange to expect that, but the home advantage for Columbus and the start that they made, it was incredible, and they deserve it 100%.
Yeah, and you've got to remember Santos, Nagbe out for COVID, so 2 of their best players were out.
And they were missing a lot of players in the semi-final as well.
They were.
And the conference final. Yeah,
and he absolutely controlled it. Seattle were never in it, really. We had a few chances in the first half, a few corners in the second half, but we were never in it. It was such a great performance, and some are even arguing that it's the most dominant MLS Cup final performance ever.
It's definitely, since I've been watching it, but that's only about 5 years, so I think...
That's true. Rather than look back now, because we're going to look back at the whole season in a moment, but I want to look forward with Columbus Crew. They've got a new season, a new stadium next season.
Yeah.
Can they have a bit of a run of dominance now in MLS?
I don't see why not. The stadium has to work to their advantage, of course. I know maybe next year is going to be a little bit too soon in terms of getting it full, getting that capacity right up and getting all the fans back in. I know that, which is a shame. But I think if you look at the roster they've got, they made good moves. Yeah. And we spoke about this in the early episodes of this season. We could see a mile off that was a strong team. I think the questions were around Jesse Zardes and whether he was going to find form. He's got them goals this year and it's been crucial. There's an episode really early on where I am waxing lyrical about Zella Raihan because he just looked incredible. The footage I saw, the stats I saw before they got hold of him, and he's slotted in really well and obviously he's performed. I think it's just the difficult thing in MLS is keeping that roster together.
Yeah.
You know, survive with Austin coming in, surviving the expansion draft. You can only protect 12 players. You know, surviving trades coming in. You've got to keep that together and somehow strengthen it as well, because you know everyone else is going to be stronger next year. So all signs point to a little bit of dominance from Columbus next year if they can do those simple things really well.
Well, you're looking at you said the squad and adding to it. Rumours are that they're after Bradley Wright Phillips.
Yeah.
Who, he's now a bit part MLS player. We know that he's a bench player who has shown with LAFC can come off the bench and score goals. Is that the kind of player that Columbus Crew need? They seem pretty set up front, so it's just somebody who can come on.
Because they play with wingers. So if you look at the runs that Bradley Wright Phillips likes to make, even at his ripe old age, he will still get to that front post, get across the goalkeeper. He's scored. We've seen it with LAFC. He's done it obviously for years. He's done it with Red Bulls. He will make those runs. He'll get there. He'll get that crucial touch. He'll tap it in. We've seen goals from him at LAFC this season, just nicking it past the goalkeeper. And you know, with magic like Zelarayan on the wing, crossing it in. That's a signing I'd like to see, to be honest with you. But of course they've got Zardes. It's not like they're completely without a goal scorer. There's teams that would definitely benefit from BWP, I would say, more than Columbus. They're not the most in need of BWP, I would say.
Yes, but I mean, for me, I think it's a testament to him to show that he remains at the top of the the top side of the standings. You know, Columbus, LAFC went from Red Bulls. He could easily have dropped down to a team who is traditionally at the bottom. Let's say Orlando, for example.
I was waiting for it.
But no, he's. I think it would be a great signing for Columbus. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I know they give out MVPs before MLS Cup. Pozuelo got it this year. Zelarayan, should he feel now a bit disappointed? Maybe he weren't in more of a shout of it.
Yeah, I think he's had an amazing first season. We saw from the first game. Remember, before lockdown, before the break, we saw a real peach of a goal from Zelarayan early on in the season, and I think it kind of set the trend, set the bar for where he was going to be. I do think he was unlucky. I really do. I think there were some real standout players this year. I think there were some great breakthrough players that also haven't been awarded. We've seen players that, if you don't follow a team, it takes a couple of games for you to be like, oh, who's this kid?
Yeah.
And I think Zelarayan for Columbus is definitely one of those. I think the likes of DK at Orlando as a draft pick, incredible. We've seen so many names come through this year where you go, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Zelarayan's stats, and I know he scored 6, assisted 4. He's played, I think he played like 8 or 9 games less than Pozuelo. Yeah. So, they tend to go off stats for these sort of things. But if you think Pozuelo in his second season, maybe Zelarayan next year, that's where he could be a shout to win it next year. But I think the influence he's had on Columbus, especially within the second part of the season, has been terrific, and he was man of the match in the MLS Cup. He's got them the win. Just a quick one then on Seattle. They'll be disappointed, but overall, it's been a good few years for them, and you won't bet against them being in the same position next year.
They'll come again, and that's the thing. They'll be there again, and I think Columbus are maybe at a point where they need. Yes, they won, but they need to get themselves to that next level so that they are on a level playing field with Seattle now. I think Seattle are much more established in this whole kind of MLS Cup. They've got an incredible roster. I think Columbus, if they add a few more pieces, will be at that same level of stature that Seattle are, and those two will battle it out again very soon.
Yeah, and Seattle this year, it was the first year, well, since we've watched it, that they've not had a Jekyll and Hyde season.
Yeah.
They normally either start really badly and end well, or they'll start really well, sort of tail off, still make the playoffs. So
they've been consistent. And that's a sign of improvement. Yeah, they didn't win, but that's a real sign of improvement. You can get to MLS Cup many, many ways, as they've demonstrated. Columbus didn't win a single away game all season, which is a joke.
It's incredible. That is, if there was ever a stat, apart from Sporting KC going from first to 13th to first or whatever it was, if there's ever a stat to just show MLS as a whole it's that one. The fact that Columbus Crew have won the whole thing by they had an almost perfect home record, but then they had a dreadful away record. They didn't win a game, and they've won it. That's, it's MLS.
And at this point, you're almost scared to move them to the new stadium. I know it's going to be better, but it's kind of like, it's kind of working pretty well where we are, guys.
Yeah, I think there's still the sort of glow from the post Save the Crew thing. And I tweeted after the game, actually, I thought that win has got to be dedicated for everyone who worked so hard to save the Crew. And, it was magnificent to see that is a nice 18-month ending to that. So fair play to them, well done. And if that's not enough, winning MLS Cup, because they won it, it means that our final Henry's Guide to North America, we are visiting Columbus. So for the final time this season, Elliot, you know what to do. It's time for Henry's Guide to Columbus.
Famous, of course, for its country music.
Hey, Elliot!
Hey, Henry!
Did you know Columbus is Ohio's state capital and is the 15th biggest city in the US?
I didn't, actually.
Nickname for the city is the Arch City, and that's because about 100 years ago, all the streetlights used to be on arches over the road.
Very nice.
It's one of the cities as well that is famous for the Doodah Parade. Now,
So
the Doodah Parade. Now,
what do you do? Get your doodah out?
Almost. You can dress up in a variety of costumes and basically whatever you want, and you go on a parade down the street. They also do it in other areas of the country as well. But the Doodah Parade in Columbus happens traditionally on the 4th of July every year. Although this year it wasn't as much of a walking parade, they had to do it driving because of COVID
to get your doodah out on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I've just spat all over. It's not very
COVID secure.
Kolo the gorilla was the oldest captive gorilla in the world and was at the Columbus Zoo until he died in 2017. He was born in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah. In 2013, the city was named the most intelligent in the US, and there is an Arnold Schwarzenegger statue in the city. It's a bronze statue, and he's like this.
Is it as good as the Beckham statue?
It's better than the Beckham statue, much better. It's also got the world's biggest gavel. Do you know what the lawyer, the
Oh yeah,
judges? Yeah. It's a silver statue. It's massive. It's a silver kind of statue, and that's in the city as well.
Wow.
We talked last time on the Henry's Guide to Atlanta about weird laws, where in Atlanta it's illegal to have an ice cream cone in your back pocket. I've got some laws here that are in Ohio and Columbus. One of them, my favourite one, because this is just completely random, is that it is illegal for women to wear leather shoes because they feel that the gloss on them, people could look at them and look up the skirts. Obviously, it's not put into practice anymore, but that is a law. It's illegal.
Okay.
Yeah. And finally, R.L. Stein, who wrote the Goosebumps books, he's from Columbus.
And you've forgotten one major character that's from Columbus, from a series that we both love.
Now, I saw this. I did see this. So the guy who plays Ted Mosby, he's called Josh Radnor.
Josh Radnor, yeah.
In How I Met Your Mother. He's from Columbus. So great knowledge there of that. But, I just felt maybe R.L. Stein is a more random and perhaps slightly more famous, would you say?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So that is Henry's Guide to Columbus. So we've done 14 now this year. Atlanta, Orlando, Philadelphia, New York City, New Jersey, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Vancouver, Portland, Minnesota, Colorado, Salt Lake City, and DC. So we've got the rest to come next season.
Houston?
Could do Houston.
People often comment on my accent. I just realised I find it really difficult to say. You say it.
Houston.
You say Houston.
Houston, yeah.
See, my accent...
Yeah.
From the east of England, I say Houston.
Houston.
Houston. I'm from Houston.
It's like you say Danny Houston, and I say Danny Houston.
Yeah. Danny Houston.
Who will get a mention later on in the podcast because we need to talk about trades.
Yeah.
MLS UK Show with Elliot Holman and Henry Hewitt.
So if you have any facts about the places that I've just not mentioned, so the ones I've mentioned, don't bother, but any that I haven't mentioned, like Houston, get in touch, henry@mls.show, with your facts, including Austin, because we'll do that next year. And as I've just said, we'll be talking about the trades very shortly. But we need to look back at MLS 2020. It's a season review, after all, and as we did last time, the name of the episode is a season review, and we're 20 minutes in, and we're now talking about the season. So let's start with the East End, because that's where the champions came from.
Yeah.
Let's start at the top. Philadelphia Union.
I think Philly have to be majorly disappointed in their playoff performance, but I think focusing on the good of the season, finishing top, building on last year and the year before, I think they're in such a good place. I don't think the playoffs, it's a massive shame they didn't go further in the playoffs, because I think realistically they had a really, really strong season. They could have matched Columbus all the way.
Yeah, you're right. And I think the problem with Philly was, and we were saying it throughout the season, is that because they'd never really been there before, they'd won one playoff match in their MLS history, no one expected them really to go the whole way. And if you looked at what they'd done in the season, they'd won Supporters' Shield. So really, they technically were favourites to do it, but they didn't. And we saw against New England Revolution, maybe it was the just the hype around it. Maybe it was they just froze, and that first half against New England Revolution, they definitely did freeze and never responded to it. So I think there's a lot to build on. We'll see next season what happens. They've got the consistency with Jim Curtin still there, and they're going to build on it. But I think now that time has passed, Philly fans will look at that and go, that was an incredible season. Shame they weren't there to see it, but an incredible season for the franchise that will always be remembered. But if you would have spoke to them a few weeks ago, they would have been really disappointed.
Yeah. I kind of feel for Toronto, because it's a testament to what they've become over the last few years, that they finished second and we're just kind of like, it's Toronto. Do you know what I mean? It's almost become standard now, and if anything, they'll be gutted that they finished, was it 3 points off Philly?
Yeah.
So they're going to be disappointed that they didn't take home some silverware from that. And I think actually finishing second in the East is a massive achievement.
It's exactly the same as Philly. Now time has passed. When you look at Toronto's whole season, they played half the season not at their stadium. They were only playing Canadian teams for a part of it as well. So it was all mixed up. And for them to finish second, I think is great.
They've got the best out of what's a crazy season.
I'll give them and Philly an A. If we were to grade them, I'd give them both an A. And I think a lot of teams are going to get the benefit of a doubt when we discuss them, just because of how the season was. We've already discussed Columbus, so a team that didn't have a problem with travelling and not playing at the ground because they played all season in Orlando is Orlando. Finishing fourth. A question I want to throw to you is, in terms of most improved, Philly winning Supporters' Shield and dominating, or Orlando actually making the playoffs? Who's been the most improved?
Most improved, I don't think I'm being biased in saying Orlando are most improved. I think the season before, we were looking at them breaking Cincinnati broke their record of goals conceded. It was honestly so poor. So for them to not only make the playoffs for the first time, but to finish fourth, get that home tie as well, win their first playoff game as well. Let's not forget Philly only did that last year. Yeah. Philly only won their first playoff game last year. Couldn't better it this year. That's a massive leap. It's a huge leap. I never expected that.
No, and you got to remember that technically, we're being technical, because technically a penalty shootout win is not technically a win. Orlando still haven't won a playoff match. But I've given you credit throughout the season. You finally beat Atlanta as well, which was a highlight for you.
We did finish 12th, if we want to talk about least improved.
We'll discuss that later on. But and that has helped me out in the Getting Advent calendar. I got quite a few from when Orlando finally beat Atlanta, so thank you. But Yeah, I think Orlando have had a great season. There's lots to improve on. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the close season, because you've let Dom Dwyer go now, so there's a lot of money available there. And I think in the last 12 months in particular, the club has proved that it can find some gems. It can find players that fit into the system a bit more. So, yeah, there's lots to look forward to for Orlando next season. And you kind of got that monkey off your back, because I was getting sick of every season starting with, Orlando have a chance of doing well this year. And then by episode 12, you're just ready to pack
down
it
in the dumps, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad for you.
Well, the Dwyer money, already being spent on tying up some of the loan deals that we had, players that we had on loan this year. So they've secured those on permanent deals, which is great news, because the squad admittedly was brilliant this year, just lacked something up top. So happy with that.
New York City, I thought, finishing 5th. It's a good season for them. Again, they had issues with not playing at home.
New coach.
Didn't start very well at all. So to finish 5th, get in the playoffs, it's a good season. And again, for them, there's stuff to build on. They've lost Alex Ring, which we'll talk about later on. But yeah, you think there's something there to grow.
Red Bulls will be disappointed that there was such a gap between themselves and NYCFC. I think was it
7 points.
About 7 points, yeah. So a couple of wins and a draw away from their rivals who were playing in their stadium. Sacked Armas as well. It's not a great year by Red Bull standards. That's poor.
No, and they've got a new manager now, head coach coming from Barnsley, which I never thought I'd say that on this show. So yeah, we'll see next season. And we've said before, it's kind of Red Bulls 2.0 at the moment.
New England obviously went deep in the playoffs, so you can't take anything away from them. But I kind of expected them to finish a bit higher in the standings because of what it was like last year when Arena took over. They skyrocketed from the bottom of the league. I kind of thought they'd build on that a bit more, but they'll be happy. They finished in the playoffs. They went further than the likes of Orlando, who finished above them. So for me, job done there.
Yeah, I think there was enough to show me in the playoffs that New England Revolution will push on next year. I think they did what they needed to do this year. They won. If you look at their record, they didn't win many at home, which again is something that they'll really want to improve on. I think there's enough there, and they've got the players to really push on next year. Do I think they'll win MLS Cup? No, but
I think they're a way off that.
But they've shown that they've got that ability in the playoffs to win when they need to. So you never know; they could be dark horses.
Thierry Henry's first season with Montreal is an interesting one, because they finished 15 points off Orlando and Columbus, Columbus, of course, went on to win MLS Cup. Is that good enough?
Regular season, they ain't making the playoffs. It's just because there's 10 this year that have made it. It is and it isn't, because, what honestly do we expect from Montreal, really? Thierry Henry is a big name, but as a manager, he's not really done. Unproven, yeah.
They don't have a massive designated player that you think, the Martinez of the operation. So I think they maybe need to look at the roster a little bit in Montreal.
Yeah, rumours are some changes in and around the club in the close season, so they'll be interesting to watch next year. And Thierry Henry, let's face it, he's not going to put up with mediocrity, so they're going to have to match his ambitions. Into Miami then. There were rumours last week that they'd sacked Alonso. That apparently isn't the case. However, if you was to ask me to put 10 of my British pounds on whether he'd bid out at the start of next season, I would not put it on.
There's a couple of things from this. Is that it was The Athletic that broke the news.
Yeah.
Then they were like, oh no, sorry, it was a mistake. What? So they just wrote a whole article on it and it was a mistake. It turns out it's because they had an end of season meeting. The coach left the meeting feeling like he had been sacked, but the club are like, well, no, he's not been sacked.
That tells me that meeting wasn't a very positive one.
Exactly. He's not left and gone, oh, great, I can't wait for next year. So yeah, we'll wait and see on that one. I think it's probably a case of they'll be looking for a replacement if a suitable replacement is found.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you've got David Beckham and it's Miami and everything has to be big and glamorous and perfect, and they're always going to be on the lookout to be better. And I think he and the players have got to watch their backs.
Higuain, Gonzalo Higuain, not his brother, but even his brother. I think because Alonso came in before Higuain. I
Yeah.
think they'll probably try and find someone who can work with Higuain. I think
Yeah.
that'll be their main focus. So, as I said, do I think Alonso will be in the job at the start of next season? No, I don't. But we'll have to see. But Inter Miami, it's difficult because of the whole season. If it was a normal season, I think Inter Miami are finishing higher than 10th. Full stadium.
Wayne Rooney's looking to get into management. David Beckham's mate.
Yeah, but he's at Derby County. So would you swap You live in Derby. Would you swap Derby for Miami?
Yes.
Okay.
Next question.
Chicago Fire then. I mean, what to say about Chicago Fire? Again, they're another team that have gone into a new stadium. There was so much hope and so much built on this season being a season that they can get back to being in Chicago, and it just hasn't quite worked out with everything. So I think it's quite difficult to judge Chicago myself.
I just can't see past the badge. I know it's pathetic. I just honestly just change it. Please just change it back.
There are rumours that they are going to change it, so we'll see.
So bad.
Moving on to Atlanta then. I mean, I tell you what, do me a favour. You're going to do it anyway. Do you want to give me day 22 on the Get In Advent calendar?
Yeah, you read me Atlanta stats from this year and I'll have a laugh.
So Atlanta United finished 12th.
Get in!
They got less than a point a game.
Come on, get in!
And they only scored 1 goal a game on average.
Get in.
I think they missed Martinez. They didn't recruit properly last season. I think they put all their eggs in Martinez's basket thinking he's going to get them the goals. He got injured after the first game and they were left with the players they've got. So,
being serious, I think there's bigger problems than Martinez not being around. They just decimated the roster. They built, right, when you're an expansion team, it's so difficult to build that roster with all the rules and find out which players are available and trade them for them and using your draft picks. So difficult to build. That first roster was incredible. They went and won MLS Cup.
Yeah.
And then they've just decimated it in 12 months. Yes, they didn't have Martinez, and yes, they would have finished a lot higher, but to then not have a replacement, and they got rid of Villalba, for example, somebody who could step up. They just Martha Petey's gone. It's non-stop. They've just made poor decisions, and Heinz has got a job on his hands unless they bring in some serious players.
Yeah, you're right. He has, and that's the thing. That this closed season is the most important in Atlanta's history for me. Even more important than the closed season before they joined MLS, because. Yeah, they got rid of... I mean, Almiron was always going to leave and go to Europe. That was in his contract over 2 years. Pitty's clearly gone because he wanted the money, even though I think he showed a bit of form before he left. It's just a poor season, and they've got a big job to do. I'm glad they've got the head coach in now. Before Christmas, he's got a long time now. He's got a couple of months to sort of work at things and get his identity. And again, he's a South American influence, which I think when you look at last time they had a South American manager, a head coach, compared to the European one that they had, I would rather them go back to having a South American one. So we'll see. I think Atlanta will do a lot better next year. They've got to. They can't do much worse. But close season will be massive. And sometimes it's not about the DPs you get. Sometimes it's about the MLS experience that you need. And I think that they were left with not much at all, and that showed.
I've got 3 words for each of the 2 remaining teams.
Go on.
DC United.
Yeah.
Roster too big.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, roster was terrible. Twice. 2 seasons, roster awful. Sort it out. 16
points, Cincinnati.
It's so bad.
16.
How many coaches as well?
I mean, there's not really much we can say about Cincinnati. They need to improve. They didn't do it last year, and they've got another chance of doing it this year. DC United, disappointing again, but they just never got going either, did they? It's a new start for them, though. Again,
they need to invest in the roster. They need to make smarter decisions with the roster. They need more depth. And there's no way they'll be that bad again next season. No way.
Right, in the West then, 12 teams that we're going to quickly run through now, and we've got to start with SKC. They won it, and I mean SKC from going from an F grade last year, surely have gone back up to an A this year.
Yeah,
they won the conference.
Yeah, they looked there or thereabouts all season, didn't they? They looked very strong. They've got a good roster, and I really hope that this is kind of something that they can sustain now, because we spoke about with Seattle, you get to that point, and that's good. You know, Philly finished top, and now you want to become one of those established teams there. So can they do it again next season?
To be honest, since we've watched MLS, we've only had one season where SKC haven't been on the boil. So you would say, they will do. I think they've got. Johnny Russell is one of our favourite players, MLS UK.
But I'm talking about making finals. You know, like being a real established Seattle.
But he's consistently playing well. Polido's come in and he's done all right. So, I think there's enough there to do that. But I think it's tough for them when you look at the West Conference. You've got Seattle and Portland that are making. It seems that one of them will make a final at any season. LAFC as well. They've had a poor MLS season this year, but you'd think, especially with how they're doing in the Champions League, you'd think that they'll push on next year and get back up. So it's difficult for SKC. They're in a conference that tends to be quite strong, but I think this year they've done very well, and the fact that they've won as many matches at home as they have away is that whole consistency there. That is the main thing, because it's all right for Columbus, they won it and they won all the home games, but if their form at home dropped, then they're not winning anything, whereas SKC can pick it up home and away. We've already spoke about Seattle, finished second. They'll be disappointed to not win MLS Cup, but overall another good season. Portland in third. They won MLS is back. They got the same amount of points as SKC and Seattle, but it's what they did in the playoffs has ruined it for them. Yeah,
for me, the MLS is back is the high. So they showed that they can do it in tournament football, went all the way to the final, beat Orlando, lifted the trophy, and you think they've made the playoffs now and they've got that tournament form. I think losing to Dallas, I don't know how they even achieved it, because I switched off when they were in the lead.
Yeah.
And then when I checked afterwards, it was, what? Dallas have what? How has that even happened? So for me, that's a huge loss, because they could have gone on to win the whole thing quite easily. If you look at, they finished on the same points as Seattle, and they could quite easily have gone and got to that final.
Yeah, they could have. And it's what we've got to remember with the playoffs is it's only one game. So any team, I don't care who you are, whether you are Seattle Sounders, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, every team, Bolton Wanderers, every team has bad games, some more than others. And Portland did have a bad game against Dallas. They couldn't. They went 1-0 up. They should have won the game 3 or 4.
They were all over them.
And they didn't do it, and Dallas picked him off at the end and got a draw and then won on penalties. So I think overall Portland have had a season that I would still give an A grade to, but it could have been so much better. But still, there's a lot for them to build on for next season, and hopefully for them, they'll remember this. And this will be their inspiration to go further next year.
Same for Minnesota, I think. Inspiration. They're on a different path in terms of they're very much on the up, very much on the Minnesota train with Adrian Heath. I think he's doing a great job. I think the roster's good. I think it could be better, but I think it's this season it was at the point where it could have been, at that point. Yeah, they've done a lot of building. It's taken a lot of time to get there. Few more additions, and they are a serious contender next year. That's got to be the goal. They've got to be looking to win that conference. They're good. They could be good enough.
They were 5 minutes away from making MLS Cup.
Yeah.
So that tells you where Minnesota are. It's taken a few years, and I think they've never been. They weren't great in the first few games when they joined a few years ago, but since then they've been all right. They've been good. Yeah. They've always been great going forward. And I think, they can easily build on it. And this is what Adrian Heath, he'll be looking next year to go, right, this is the year where we go and win something. And for me, with Minnesota, now they're in the new stadium. Now they've found an identity. They know what they're doing. I mean, if Minnesota won the West or won Supporters Shield next year, I wouldn't be surprised.
No way, not at all. I want to get to Dallas, LAFC, and San Jose, who kind of all in the same bracket in a bit. But I think special mention to Colorado, who definitely, I'm going to say, had a better season. Better season than those three.
They did, mainly because they played 4 less games and crammed in all the points in those games. But Colorado again to finish 5th, and you've got to remember they had spent like a month or so not playing.
Yeah, it's getting going again. That was the tough thing. And
they got over the line on points per game. I mean, they were comfortably on points per game. They were in 5th, but. It's nice to see Colorado up there because we feel they always recruit quite well. I mean, the Minnesota walked all over them in the playoffs, but they recruited well, and what we used to with Colorado, this is such an improvement, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think when you look at the teams below them, well, they finish more points, but finish below them. Dallas, LAFC, San Jose, Vancouver. Also, I want to put in this bracket if we can club these 4 together because. Talk about a Jekyll and Hyde. 1 week, it was a big win. The next week, they were getting hammered. And they all no one wanted it. No. Out of those 4, no one wanted it whatsoever. Yes, LAFC had some great games. They won 7 games at home, but then couldn't buy an away win.
No, they couldn't. They didn't react well. They didn't play for a lot of the majority of the games they played. They didn't react well to that. Rossi tried his best, and he had isolated really good performance. Yeah. But as a whole, didn't think they played well. They'll be disappointed. Their season could still end and be arguably the greatest season of any MLS team if they go and win Champions League. Yeah,
representing LAFC, representing us as our only hope ever in the history of us playing in the Champions League. Obviously we wish them all the luck in the world. We really want them to go and stick it to Mexico.
And they could still do, but I think MLS terms, they didn't do well at all, and they will definitely improve.
100%. San Jose started. I mean, it was awful. It was embarrassing. I don't know. No one can disagree. But they clawed it back. Same as Vancouver. They looked down and out. San Jose and Vancouver both got hammered at points this season. But finishing 8th and 9th respectively. I'll be honest. I think that's probably a bit of a win after how it all began.
Yeah. They conceded almost 100 goals between them, which. I mean, that tells you everything about San Jose and Vancouver. But
they only played 46 games.
I know, yeah.
Between them.
Vancouver, I mean, San Jose, they've gone from being the team a few years ago that were the whipping boys of MLS, and now they are just getting in the playoffs or there and thereabouts. So they have improved, and I think there's room for them to improve next year.
I don't want to say what I'm about to say, but I've seen nothing to suggest, since we've been watching MLS over the last 5 years, I've seen nothing to suggest that I'm wrong. I came into MLS and I looked at the history and it's like, they've won MLS Cup 5 times. I've not seen them get close.
No.
I don't know if they are they there anymore? We know how it works. There's ups and downs. Look at Atlanta. LA Galaxy are the perfect example of that. I don't know if they are that. They don't set that bar anymore. For me, there's nothing to suggest that they were a real team to beat this year. And it does make me sad because of the history and because of the Beckham. And please don't, this is not coming from a bad place. Like, I love LA Galaxy because they are MLS because of David Beckham. And if you live in the UK, it's LA Galaxy because David Beckham.
Yeah.
So this is not like an attack on LA Galaxy, but I just feel like they're not there at the minute.
No, LA Galaxy for me are like Arsenal, where you'll always respect the name, but let's face it, at the moment they're a million miles away from winning anything. Chicharito hasn't performed this year. He's been a real disappointment. And I mean, they've got other players that are trying to pull the weight, but it's just not clicked at all. And to finish 10th again, pre and post Latam, of what we've seen, they're finishing 10th.
Yeah.
and it's not for a club like LA Galaxy. It's not good enough. There's rumours that Greg Vanny might be the man who's going to come in and take charge.
That's what they need.
Exactly. I was going to say that for me, they need that type of person to come in, someone who's got a lot of MLS experience, who has proven that he can build. Because remember when he came into Toronto, he helped build that team into MLS Cup champions.
Yeah.
So he's exactly what they need, and
it's a fresh project for him, I think, and this is what he needs.
He can't go much worse. Like I said that about Atlanta, but LA Galaxy have had consistent. Like at least Atlanta could have a few more years of finishing 11th, 12th. Yeah. LA Galaxy, this is all that we've known really, other than when Zlatan was there. So they need someone to come in. They need someone to stick a rocket up Chicharito and get him scoring again. Or they just need to wipe everything out and just start again. But I think Greg Vanny would be a good appointment for them. But yeah, I agree with you. LA Galaxy, you're going off the name because let's face it, they've not shown as much this season.
A team that finished on the same points as LA Galaxy is RSL, and for me, that's a bigger shock than LA being down there. Because, like you say, LA have been either side of Zlatan have been there anyway. For us, we always big up RSL because normally, very consistent. They'll always be in and around the playoffs. Only 1 or 3 games at home this year. Very unlike RSL. And for me, that's a big disappointment.
Yeah, they normally scrape the playoffs. They normally know what they need to do to get into the playoffs. I know they've had a change with head coach, but yeah, 11th is poor for them, and their home form is normally what really gets them through. It's what normally they bank their season on, and you can guarantee normally that RSL are picking up at least 5, 6, 7 wins at home.
And you normally vote for Rusnak to win the Ballon d'Or every year. I mean, he can't win it when they're finishing 11th.
We have the same birthday, yes, so he's my favourite player. Yeah, but it's just they need to start again next season. But I think they've got enough in the bank to do it. They've obviously there's been a lot of stuff happened off the pitch, which we won't get into now, but was rightly condemned. But it's been a poor, disappointing, difficult season for RSL. But I wouldn't be surprised if next year we're looking at finishing 4th.
In the overall standings, only one team finished lower than FC Cincinnati. And I'll keep this really, really simple. It's Houston Dynamo. Let's just say, new badge, new start, blow it all up, start again.
I agree.
The MLS UK show.
May have forgotten in the last episode. So it may be MLS Cup themed, even though it's already happened. My apologies.
Still relevant.
It's just been the MLS Cup. So shall we have a game of the Jason Kreis is right?
We wouldn't miss it.
We would. Henry Hewitt, come on down. Henry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's higher or lower? I feel very unprepared with this because I just frantically tried to remember what it was that I was going to do. Right. I have a list of stadiums that have hosted MLS Cup.
Right, okay.
I will give you one to start off with. Let's start with Toyota Stadium in Texas. It's hosted MLS Cup twice. If you cared, it's in 2005 and 2006, back-to-back years.
Wow.
But higher or lower, Mapfre Stadium, Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, it's definitely not less, so more, higher?
It's higher. It's 3. Yeah. 2001, 2015, and when was the other? When was it? 2020.
Yeah.
Okay, higher or lower, Sporting Park, Kansas City in Kansas.
Lower.
It is lower. It's 1. Higher or lower than Sporting Park in Kansas, CenturyLink Field, Seattle.
Oh, it's every other year, isn't it?
Well, you think that?
No, it's because they've been in a few, but they've been away for a lot of them.
It's a harder question than you think.
Higher? Oh, same?
It is higher.
Yes.
Stick with it. Let's do a couple more, even though the music's run out. Higher or lower than CenturyLink Field, RFK Stadium, Washington, D.C.?
Higher.
It is higher. How many do you reckon?
Oh, I think 3 or 4, is it?
3.
Yeah.
And higher or lower than RFK Stadium. Let's finish with Gillette Stadium. I kind of put these in the same bracket.
Yeah.
Gillette Stadium, Foxborough, Massachusetts.
So you're saying 3, just lower?
It's lower, but it's one. They only hosted it once.
Oh, right, okay.
So there we go. Another round, the final round of the Kreis is Right in 2020. If you've got any ideas for any higher or lower games, I'm out. I'm spent. I'm done. I don't know how we've made it last this long. That's me done. I'm out of ideas.
So we're looking ahead to 2021 then. The trades have started. Austin FC have obviously they need to get a whole team together, so they've started. I've got a list of a few here. Alex Ring, the big name. New York City fans were very disappointed to see him leave, but he's a guy of MLS experience. We've seen players like this who have left clubs and you think, oh, they'll do a good job. Not quite done a good job. But then we've seen Walker Zimmerman do a great job.
Yeah.
So where do you think Ring will fall in?
He's been at a new club before. At NYCFC. I think that's important. Zimmerman, of course, stepped into to Nashville and took to it like a duck to water. I do think, if I'm honest with you, I think this is possibly the best signing they've made. Experience, could be a captain, middle of the park. I think it's a really solid. I can understand why he might want to leave NYCFC. He's been through quite a lot there. They've had a lot of ups and downs at NYCFC over the years. Gets to play on an actual pitch every week, which, it's not to be sniffed at.
That was a bonus.
So I'll be honest. I think that's a really, really crucial bit of the pattern coming together.
They've signed quite a few players that have got a lot of MLS experience. You look at Danny Howson, Ben Sweat, Ulysses Segura, Nick Lima, Julio Cascante. So that's the route they're going down. We kind of saw Nashville go down a similar route. I think I've been impressed with the recruitment so far. Yeah,
Ben Sweat, of course, went to Miami. Now we'll know Alex Ring, crucially. But I think Sweat will look to have a much more successful time in Austin than he had with Miami. But I do like that as a trade. They've got a good balance of experience there and talent. It looks like it's very difficult from an expansion draft to see where a team's going because of course they've still got so many positions to fill and then add the depth pieces as well. There's still so much work for them to do yet. So the jury's still out.
Austin then, looking, where do they fit? Because they've got signs of like Nashville about them, but they've also, with a celebrity owner and stuff like that, they've got a lot of signs of Miami. Is there going to be a lot expected of Austin next year?
I think there is. I think it's been coming a while. I think the pressure is in the fact that they've had a long while to prepare for this. The stadium is, the stadium's there. There's teams in MLS that would kill for a stadium. Austin are going to have it day one, which is great. Won't be full, of course, but I think Austin have got a real platform to go and do extremely, extremely well, but maybe with less of the spotlight and pressure that Miami had, which I think could be a key ingredient. Even Atlanta to some degree. Atlanta, there's a lot of pressure on them. So from the 17s. So I think there could be some very good things in Austin. And I'm going to say this now. I'm going to say it before a ball is kicked. I'm adopting Austin as my second team.
Right.
I've always wanted a team in the West.
Yeah.
And my nephew is called Austin. I'm going to buy him the jersey and I'm going all in.
You're going Austin. Green. And green as well because Norwich, yellow and green. Looking at a few of the other trades then, Fafa Picault has gone from Dallas to Houston.
Yeah.
Is this the kind of player Houston need?
Houston need whatever they can get, I'll be honest.
That's a good point.
They obviously frantically trying to replace some key players that they've lost in the last 12 months. It's experience. It's experience. He knows where the goal is. I don't think you can disagree with that trade. I think it's a start.
Friend of the show, Kamal Miller, he went to Austin and then got traded to Montreal.
Yeah. He's actually a Toronto fan.
Is he? Oh dear. Oh dear.
So yeah. Let's see how that one goes. Sad for Kamal though, because he's done well. Obviously, he was drafted to Orlando. He's done well. He's been a solid player. He's come in this year. He's played a lot because Moutinho's been injured. So obviously, loved having him on the show. Loved chatting to him. A proper professional, a true pro. So good luck to him.
And Evan Bush is going to be Columbus's number 2 goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's a shame that he's not reuniting with Fanny.
I mean, it is. It is.
But no, that's a solid pickup, that, for me. As a really good depth piece, that's excellent. As he maybe looks to wind down a little bit, I think that's a really nice move for both parties.
Right, and before we go, game with a changing name. Go on, give us the players again.
Okay, so this player started their career in Watford, which is his hometown. He played twice for Watford. Despite all the hullabaloo and the anticipation about his talent. He moved to Atlanta in MLS in 2019. He played 18 times and was in competition with Justin Meram to play on the wing.
Right.
He then moved to Luton Town this year in the Championship here in England. And it was Henry
Pereira?
Yes, Dion Pereira.
No. I'm glad I've finished on a high with that one. Thank you if you have messaged us and you got it right. Well done if you got it right and didn't message us. Right, so that's it for us for this season. I just want to say...
it's a nice feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Switching off for Christmas.
I just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone and have a Happy New Year. It's been a difficult year for all of us, but hopefully 2021 will be better. From us too, we want to say thank you, whether you get involved or whether you just listen. We love doing this show. We love talking about MLS, and for us to have been even a small part of your 2020 is it's amazing. So thank you so much. Remember, 2021 hopefully will be better. It'll be a better year, as Timon and Pumbaa say. Hakuna Matata. And who would have guessed that the last quote on this season would have been Timon and Pumbaa?
Last season we finished with Kalen Carr. This year, this is a perfect way to sum up 2020. It's Timon and Pumbaa.
So to finish the season, I think, Elliot, you need to give us day 24 of the Get In Advent Calendar when you're ready.
Orlando City finally made the playoffs. We've finally got a good coach. We've finally got a roster together. Get in! Merry Christmas.
See ya.